Hello and welcome to another episode of Advanced Open Hwoarang Lessons. Today's lesson, tournament versus Deathmatch Hwoarang. So what's like the main thing between Deathmatch Hwoarang and Tournament Hwoarang? Now, first of all, before we even get to that, we have to understand Hwoarang as a character first. Now, you already know that Hwoarang is a mix-up character, mainly. Rush down, sure, but that rush down can get nullified by movement and certain challenges. So you move into the mix-up part, wherein you make the opponent guess their defensive option. You use a lot of safe options to keep them guessing. Maybe you put the foot down and turn that +5 into a +2. You turn the +5 into a +1, and then you do other stuff like down 3-4, let the foot go down 3-4 again, and then you're changing up a lot of your timings, and then even playing safe, play more keep out, JFSR, stuff like that. That's how Hwoarang mainly operates. But in a tournament and deathmatch setting, your leeway is different. So in a deathmatch, you have more time to adjust, obviously. And in a tournament, you have lesser time to adjust. Now, as an example, let's talk about 1-2-4 RFSDF4. Now, it's always about, Tekken is a game about adjustments, right? So you want to do something that advances the game state in your favor. And Hwoarang is a character of mix-ups. So if you're not getting a mix-up that's hitting, you are essentially losing with the character. So let's say you get 1-2-4 RFSDF4 on hit, right? And then it gets blocked, so you're +1. How do you advance the game state for Hwoarang? On paper, right? Not counting your opponent's reactions and stuff like that. So the best thing you can do is follow up with another 1-2-4 RFSDF4 or 1-2-4 RFSF4 play into the RFSF4 mix-up. And then once they play into the RFSF4 mix-up, that's when you can throw out the Hell Sweep and Air Blade. That's the main thing you can do. Okay, what's the other thing you can do? 1-2-4 RFSDF4 and then backdash, because you're on +1, right? Or stay in place, gather their reaction. Or you do a high crushing low in down back 3, or you do a sneaky standing low in down back 4, or you do a basic mid check in DF1 or DF1 +2. Because again, that'll turn into a 12 frame mid, which will nullify their 13 frame mid, right? So what's the best option for the opposing Hwoarang or the opposing the opponent, right? They can backdash it. Everything I just mentioned, completely backdashable, right? So that was the +1, right? This is a check with mids. They just backdash it. Okay. Do the low. Of course, the low will catch. But that's okay because they just continue to backdash away. And then if you do the 1-2-4, it's only the second hit that catches. So there's a small window there where you can get interrupted. So that's single-handedly the best option to defend against 1-2-4 RFSDF4. So now, at that point, on paper, your objective is to lock them in. So this is where the Wavu comes in, the Flamingo cancels, one down 3-4, a dash up down 3-4, mind you, not a basic down 3-4. You walk up down 3-4. You really have to make use of that time where they're backdashing. Now, in a tournament setting, you get at least, based on my experiences playing in tournament as Hwoarang for years, you get roughly 2 to 3 chances here on this specific situation. Now, what I've always done is you play safe. That's okay. Yeah, I just return back to neutral, look for a different opportunity. That's gonna be your main default option instead of looking for a reaction, because that's just bad. That's just bad. So you look for a reaction, right? The problem is, with this situation, while it is safe in neutral, it is also a slight disadvantage because again, every character in the game has a slightly better neutral, fundamental neutral than Hwoarang. Not the mixed neutral with fundamentals and stances and stuff like that. So what's the next thing you can do in a tournament setting, right? Aside from remaining safe there, whether you backdash or not after 1-2-4 RFSDF4. The next thing you can do is obviously go for mental mix-ups. Okay. The thing is, your opponent's going to challenge you there. So you make sure you Wavu block, you dash up, you dash block there. And then you're going to play into that situation. So you're now more focused on the situation of what your opponent is pressing. So you're not playing on the RFSDF4 situation. What you're playing is on their DF1, essentially. Just to make this discussion really, really simple. Rather than waiting in neutral for a new interaction to happen. And then the last one is to press a button. So that's like the dash up, down 3, 4. You're gonna enforce something because you can't enforce anything aside from like a down back 3 or a down back 4. Oh, even down back 4 was backdash there. Didn't get backdashed earlier. So which means down back 3 is all you're getting. So that's like the one free hit you can get here. Of course, you can also just lock in JFSR. But remember, you're only +1. That's the problem. You're +1. So if you get any of these situations wrong, and if we're assuming that the number of times you're allowed to adjust in a tournament is roughly 2 to 3 times, you're in danger if you get it wrong. And if you play into a situation, while albeit super safe on paper, doesn't get you anywhere. Because again, the objective is advancing the game state in your favor. Why do something that doesn't give you anything? This doesn't give you anything. At all. It doesn't. Your opponent's not going to press here. Most of the time, they won't. You could get that as a free attempt. Maybe less than 5 times. Because the one that's always keeping them honest is that RFS F4. So it's just like, it doesn't look good, right? It doesn't look good. In a deathmatch setting, however, all of that still applies, right? But the thing is, you're limited to the amount of points you have. Let's say we're in rank, right? You're limited to the amount of points you have. So if you're at break even, you're at 50-50 in the progress bar of the rank. You have roughly, let's say it's the same rank opponent, and it's not God ranks. Let's say it's blue ranks or something like that. So it's +1-9 and -1-9 every game. You have roughly 5 games to adjust. That's a lot. Because you can continue playing around with a certain situation over and over again to find a way to make that situation in your favor. So I could be stubborn enough in a deathmatch to 1-2-4 RFS DF4 and then dash block every time. And you can continue being stubborn on it, right? You're allowed to in a deathmatch. In a tournament, you can, but do you really want to risk it? That's the question. Do you really want to risk it? So it's really all about safety in tournament and finding a way to make sure that adjustment is very, very snappy and advancing the game state in your favor. You're gonna hear this all the time throughout this lesson. How does Hwoarang advance a specific situation or sequence in his favor as fast as possible and as safely as possible? Because again, backdash beats so many things here. So it's like dash block or like backdash away, or press a button and see how they react. So deathmatch, you can actually transform this into many, many things. So you can go 1-2-4 and then like let the foot go down. You have leeway to do that. You do that in a tournament setting, 1-2-4, you let the foot down. Hey, if your opponent's, trigger happy, they're just gonna launch you or they're gonna challenge you immediately. You didn't have room. So you lost like part of your HP, and let's say they're at set point already. You're like, okay, I can't do that anymore. Which means that you're gonna be forced to commit to this, and then you're gonna start rushing. Get it? You're gonna start rushing. So it's like, it's really a mental thing in the differences for tournament Hwoarang and deathmatch Hwoarang. Your mental fortitude and patience really have to be there, and you have to know when to drop a situation. So in a tournament, if this is not panning out and you keep returning back into neutral, you may as well just stop pressing the button. Straight up, you might as well just stop pressing it. You change it into like a different mid, or you could keep the mid, but never ever try to build something out of this anymore. So that's 2 things. You can either like drop the situation altogether, or continue doing it, but it's only there for the sake of doing it. That doesn't necessarily advance the game state, but you're also safe. That's why like you see a lot of Hwoarang mains, or a good number of them, have subs. Wherein like, let's say a situation like that doesn't pan out, and they don't know how to adjust that anymore, or there's no room to adjust. Let's say that was the first game and the first two in pools. You lost. And like all your situations were like that. Down 3-4 into the mid, 1-2-4 RFS DF4, while standing 4-4 into standing RFF2. Like your opponent was like doing a lot of the really good calls on defense, and you lost your chance to adjust. Now, it doesn't mean it isn't salvageable, like you can't adjust from that. It's just that you have to really work hard to build it off. So you're gonna have to like, start like really, really small in order to get to like the big mix-ups, so to speak, so that it goes into Hwoarang's favor and really makes them second guess themselves. That's why they swap. So for me, when that kind of thing happens, I usually swap to Miguel or Steve. Those are like my main secondaries. For other Hwoarang players, one of them has a lucky Chloe. the other one had like a lead, the other one had a Noctis, so on and so forth. So like you have to start to make the call wherein should I continue adjusting and like gamble on the fact that my situation's not going anywhere, and I'm gonna try to build it off slowly but surely, because at that point you're just playing a fundamental Hwoarang, or a Hwoarang whose sequences and mix-ups are not going anywhere because they're not, it's not getting into your favor at all. Or do you just swap characters and use the information that you got off Hwoarang based on how your opponent's defending and try to transpose that to the next character that you're going to play? That's like the Hwoarang struggle in tournament. Your options get limited really, really fast compared to a deathmatch. That's like the whole point. In deathmatch, well, you're not really gonna be swapping characters to begin with, not unless you lost the deathmatch. Then if your sub or like your other main is in the same rank of your opponent, you could still technically transpose that information and like play the deathmatch on a different character. But I think it's more often than not, Hwoarang is kind of successful at death matches because this is like you can change the timings of this. You can really key in on like how your opponent reacts to Flamingo. So what is the solution to this, right? So if in a tournament you're forced to play super safe, and in a deathmatch you're allowed to be stubborn or like continuously find a way to make that situation work, this is gonna sound like a no-brainer, but you could always just do the safest option first. So you do a process of elimination by safety. Okay, so what happened after the backdash? Oh, okay, we just return back to neutral and then we're looking for a different situation. Okay, then you check again. 1, 2, 4, backdash, not backdash, forward dash into a block. What happened here? And then 1, 2, 4 into the low, and then 1, 2, 4 into like a big mix-up, whether that be down 3, 4 or JFSR. You do all of that once. And then you see what worked and what didn't. And then you start leaning on the situations that work. And then you try to see whether you can build up that situation into something else, or are you forced to play on the situation of your opponent? One of the two things. That's like the best way to do it, both for a tournament setting and a deathmatch setting. It's just that deathmatch you have more freedom. So for a tournament setting, that's like your best solution. Process of elimination by safety. So you attempt all of it. You can attempt the unsafe thing last, or you can attempt the unsafe thing first. You can choose it, whether it's ascending order or descending order. So if you're going to be playing in a tournament as Hwoarang, good luck. It's not easy. I mean, it's great when it all goes in, but it's not great when it doesn't go in and you're really trying to figure out, like, try to get that needle in the haystack from your opponent's defense. In a deathmatch, hopefully it doesn't take you too long to adjust, or else you demoted, or you lost the first to 10 or first to 5. And a lot of this also sounds vague. So again, I hope this helped. That was the lesson for today. Very, very focused on like the mental aspect of Hwoarang's game plan, both in deathmatch and in tournament. Again, feel free to click over there. I don't know, it's gonna be on the side of the screen for the next advanced Hwoarang lesson.